Okay, welcome back to my Let's Play of Detective. We are knee-deep in the first case, which is titled A Man with a Golden Watch. And, yeah, quite a watch it is. It's gone on quite the journey, apparently. Try and summarize what we learned last time. It's a little tricky. Well, essentially we learned that things are not as simple as they first seemed, of course. Kurt Blutholz, Nazi microbiologist, worked at Auschwitz, apparently escaped justice after World War II was over. He was able to flee to Austria and then possibly Italy. Hard to say for sure. We lost track of him. Doesn't sound like he ever made it to the U.S. personally, but that's unknown. The watch ended up with a man named Rupert Owens. Presumably, he got it from his father, Marcus Owens, who owned a pawn shop, where he, as far as we know, as far as I can legitimately tell, he bought the watch from a man named Horatio Dawson. I think I might have lost a card somewhere. The cats have just been all over this desk. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a game you want to probably try and play in one session, especially if cats are involved. But okay, Horatio Dawson served in World War II with distinction, multiple awards, Purple Heart, you know, the works. He ended up as a sergeant. He was involved in Operation Husky, which was in Italy, I believe, and then Operation Undertone, which was in Germany. He served from 1943 to 1945 until the war ended, and then he went on to become he trained the Quartermaster Corps in the U.S. afterwards for like 11 years or 9 years, something like that. But he did end up with stolen jewelry. One part being the golden watch that we're focused on, the other part being a medal commemorating a baptism that occurred in Wolszyn, Poland in 1940. That ended up also being sold to Marcus Owens and given to his wife. Now, we can't currently confirm when or if he was ever in Poland, so that's a little bit of a gray area. We still don't know the exact path of the watch from the museum in Poland to how it ended up in Dawson's hands, at the very least. As a very peculiar note, the day before Dawson died and was murdered during a robbery in his home, he withdrew all of his money from the bank, over $16,000 in 1960s money, which is, you know, quite a bit. And none of that money was found in the safe, so that was presumably stolen as well. Let me see just how much money that would be. $16,452. $135,000 in today's money. To be honest, that's quite a nest egg he was sitting on. That's almost a little suspicious as well. I mean, a sergeant in the military, I don't know how, how lucrative that exactly was. And he died fairly young. Hold on, I gotta log back in as usual. Dawson died at the age of 42. 42, I think he was a florist, right? Yeah, he was a florist. I mean, he owned a flower shop. He owned a flower shop with attached residential property, and he still had that much money sitting in the bank. Seems a little fishy. I think he was probably selling jewelry all around the place. But regardless, withdrew all his money and tried to pawn off a bunch of his stolen jewelry to a pawn shop, which he did. $487 worth. How much was that? Let me just see. $4,000. Okay. Sold basically $4,000 worth of jewelry. And then he died the same, or the next day. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Now, currently it is 2 p.m. on day 2 of our investigation. We have 2 hours before we slip into overtime. I'm not opposed to slipping into a little bit of overtime, if need be, because we only have 4 days to solve this crime. And tomorrow morning, we have to decide if we want to go to Michael Slater's funeral. Now, Michael Slater, that was the other thing that we discovered that's a little bit odd. Maybe something a little fishy. The evidence and the records for this case are not up to police standards, as far as I'm concerned. There's evidence missing, there's torn pieces of paper, there's missing records. Things have slipped through the cracks a little bit. And, also, there's been some other iffy things. Samuel Brown was a colonel in the Army, and he was attacked at some point a few months before Dawson. He was attacked by Dawson, but the charges were dropped. And there's a clerical error in Samuel Brown's records that recorded the wrong date of death. So, I don't know if that's related or not, but there's just a lot of fishiness. And part of that fishiness is Michael Slater, who was the investigating officer on Horatio Dawson's death. So, if there's any funny business, that's partially on him at the very least. As a side connection that might be odd, his wife was a witness on a homicide case 2 years prior. We don't know any details about that case. I don't know if it's even connected remotely. But since I'm having Michael Slater listed in my head as a potential suspect, I do want to find out some info about that case. Also, his wife is apparently still alive, so maybe we can question her at some point. Perhaps not on the day of her husband's funeral, but we'll see. It's not ex-husband, so, they still stuck together. Alright. With that in mind, let's look at our further leads that we can follow up on. We can consult with a court pathologist to analyze the autopsy report. So we did take the time to go and get the autopsy report for Horatio Dawson. Overall, from what we could tell, it was very standard stuff. Basically affirming what we already thought, that he fell from a great height. Not a great height. He fell from a height after, most likely being pushed off the staircase, and the injuries seem consistent with that. Now, that's based on our sort of... mostly we're just basing that on the info in the autopsy report that we can interpret. Now, somebody that's actually an expert at it could look at it and say, well, there's other possibilities, and maybe we can think about those other possibilities and put two and two together. I don't know. We can also consult with a forensic psychologist to look over evidence, I guess, for us. I'm not sure what exactly. DNA, fingerprints, or something. I'm not sure. We can go to Horatio Dawson's grave. I'm not sure what we'd hope to find there. That seems like the least likely option. We can examine the paper shreds in the evidence box, or the record box for the whole case. There were shreds of paper inside of an envelope that was supposed to be sent to a lab, but that was canceled. That's part of the big fishiness that I'm pointing on Michael Slater, so I'm most interested in that. We can also take the bill of receipt over to the lab to analyze the fingerprints. That part I just don't get. I don't know what we're hoping to achieve there, which seems like we've already confirmed in every way that the receipt is real, fingerprints match Horatio Dawson's. No, I guess that's not true. We know that the signature on it matches Dawson's signature. So this would be going a step further and analyzing the fingerprints on the receipt to see if that also matches Dawson, which would really prove that it's real. It sort of depends on how much I think that this is a fake or not. So far, very little is pointing it to be fake, but, all it takes is one thing to have reasonable doubt. So as it stands, we have 2 hours, give or take. We could extend it, and I think we're going to have to. Because there's nothing else to do at the headquarters right now, which is where we are. So let's go to the lab. I'm going to spend an hour going to the lab. And we're going to examine the paper shreds, number 118. So let me just erase that. It is done. Alright. How long is this going to take us? 3 hours. Going into overtime, boys. So it is 6 o'clock. Fortunately, the road is not bothersome, and after a dozen or so minutes, you reach the laboratory. You scan your badge at the entrance and go to the 8th floor. As you pass a glass door, the outside world disappears. Only the whiteness and silence of the registry office remain. You log into the system, check the type of evidence, number of items to be examined, approximate dimensions, scope of research, and as usual, you tick the high priority procedure box. 2 hours later, you receive a notification that the tests have been completed and are provided an access code for the encrypted files containing the results. Evidence. Paper shreds from a typewriter with fingerprint marks. At the edge of the torn fragment, an incomplete set of fingerprints from the upper part of 4 fingertips has been found. Prints made when the paper was being torn away. Okay, and we have a fingerprint signature. It's a partial one. It is KLXX2SHJPXTE. And that does not match... Wait, 2S. Oh. I was very close to the ashtray one, but not quite. 2S instead of 8S. So no, this is a new fingerprint, which is very interesting. In addition, ink particles were obtained from the typewriter's roller. By developing a paper wrap matrix relative to the roller, some words were able to be identified. And we have access to a new file, 118. Paper shreds from a typewriter. Kill Nick. Hand, accomplice, notice, value, antitesty, either way, Bluth. Nick. Nick. Okay. So, something testify, Bluth valuable, blah, 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 and a kill order. Now, we know that Marcus Owens was going to talk to the prosecutor's office about something, perhaps to reduce his prison sentence. And he was killed by someone in prison before he could do so. I don't think that's a coincidence. So, this is something. This is definitely something. And we got Bluth on there at the bottom, which is most likely Kurt Bluetholz. Now, we have a dig deeper on this card to try and decipher the letter. It's going to cost me one of these tokens, which I have 2 of, so I think this is a good opportunity. Let's read on. You have a flair for word games. In college, you used to spend hundreds of hours on such quizzes. You sit at the computer and run a few simple programs, which, based on similar documents from this period, check the potential versions of the text in the context of the case and additional keywords. It is obvious that you will not be able to reproduce what the author wrote precisely, but you can probably get some additional information. Finally, after a few minutes of work, adding words, eliminating evident misses, and, let's be honest, good fun, you conclude at the most likely variant. Killed. No match. Nick. Okay. Handed. Accomplices. They did not notice. Valuables. Want to testify together with Bluetholz. Alright, let me add all this to the notes here. Letter torn from typewriter found in Dawson's home. Killed. That says no match. I assume that means like we don't know who Nick is referring to or anything like that. Or it's just, you know, they couldn't extrapolate any more info about it. Together with Bluetholz. Okay. So, to be clear then, this is paper shreds from a typewriter. So somebody wrote this out on a typewriter and then tore it away, and the fragments were found in Dawson's home. We can't confirm then, and it doesn't seem like Dawson was the one that wrote this, because the fingerprints do not match his. So someone else typed this out, tore it away from the typewriter. Or Dawson typed it and then someone else tore it away. I mean, you could be here all day. But the letter seems to be... They did not notice valuables. Want to testify together with Bluetholz. But there's, I mean, we're missing so much from this letter. Based on here, based on the way that it's formatted, it sounds like... It really sounds like Blootholes was the one that signed this. I mean, if you look at where the signature is on, like, a letter in the lower right there, it sounds like he signed it Blootholes. That potentially changes a lot. That changes our sort of whole... that Dawson retrieved the watch or something like that, but Blootholes was never in the U.S. This makes it seem like he was in the U.S. and he's been actively corresponding with Dawson. We don't know of any Nick, so that's a whole, you know, and at the end is capitalized, so you know that, like, it's got to be a name. Okay. I think that's all we're going to get out of that for today. So we're going to end the day. I think I have to take some stress. Yeah. Okay, so I have to take 2 stress markers. And we can go up to 7 from what I remember. Yeah, 7. We have 4 days. Okay, so that's that. 8 a.m. day 3. We have to decide right now if we're going to go to the funeral. It basically... It's a matter of how much I suspect Michael Slater is being involved. I guess that's the only reason I'd care to go in the middle of a big case. Sure. Let's do it. We can start at Richmond PD then. And we are reading number 134. This is taking us 2 hours out of our day. So it's 10 a.m. You arrive at Richmond PD. In the parking lot, there are over 20 policemen and women wearing formal uniforms with umbrellas in their hands. Within the next few minutes, even more cars arrive, until finally everyone gets into the cars and the procession heads to the cemetery. The grim weather and the nasty drizzle are a fitting backdrop to the ceremony. You park at a distance and stand in the back, watching in solemn silence. After it's finished, you talk to several policemen, jumping from topic to topic. The investigation of Slater's hit and run has slumped. The late Slater's wife is a tough woman. After all, she has been the wife of a police investigator all of her life. Slater was retired for 30 years, but he often stopped by the precinct. In the end, the weather forces everyone to flee back to their cars. If you want to talk about his old investigations and cases, come to the station, says your old pal Tarkovsky. It's dry there, we have donuts and coffee, and a few of Slater's old friends will also be there. Place the IT marker on the fieldwork location. Oh, right. So we moved out into the field. Okay. So sadly, as a dig deeper, we could have talked to the widow, Christine Slater, but I don't have the necessary token to do so. That's a big bummer. Nothing I can do about it. So then, as a further lead, we can go visit the police station to talk with some cops about Slater's old cases. That's a pretty solid lead. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to spend an hour traveling back to Richmond PD, and we're going to pop open 109. Another 2 hours go by. These days just fly by, man. Alright. The 6th Richmond Police Station is a place always bustling with life. Though today the lobby is quiet and peaceful. It's as if the rain made even the criminals stay inside, perhaps to give the cops the opportunity to say goodbye to Slater. You look around for someone familiar. You spot Susie Washington from the archives, but she seems to be in the middle of a discussion. You see Tarkovsky behind the glass door of the investigation room. You knock, nodding to Tarkovsky. He gestures you to come in. The room has a relaxed atmosphere. A few cans of Coke, donuts, laughter. It's been 30 years since Slater retired, but there are still a few cops who worked with him or at least have heard about him. The police are like a family. Generations work here, and Slater was a living legend. A few of the cops are sharing stories about their late friend. One is bragging that during the first month of his service, he knocked out the guy who wounded Slater with a screwdriver. Another mentions the 80s, when they were in a high-speed chase but ran out of fuel. They had to wait for another patrol car to bring them gas. Thus, the Petrol Patrol nickname was born. After retiring, Slater often jogged by the police station. He liked to stay current on all the happenings at the station and offer advice when solicited. He knew his stuff. They said he always had a hunch. Rumor had it he worked even more at home when he kept a lot of files and notes from his previous cases. He archived everything thoroughly. Did he, though? Alright, we're going to spend one of these tokens that I have 2 of. And we're going to ask about his old cases. Among the cops, you spot an older guy who looks less cheerful than the others. You ask Tarkovsky about him. That's Jack Riviers, Slater's old pal, his first partner. They worked in homicide together in the 60s. You decide to ask Riviers about Slater. Yeah, Michael was a good guy. Type of cop that everyone respects. Even the young people who thought they knew everything. He had something in him. Kind of calmness and precision. He wasn't knowledgeable about new technology, but nobody teased him about that. People knew that even without tech, he would find out more than the others. He often took work home with him, working overtime. It was his life. A pencil, a notebook, and work around the clock. Even if the case was a no-brainer, he dug deeper. I remember that in the late 60s we worked on the murder case of some florist. The top was pressing us to close that case as fast as possible, and Mike was running around pissed all week that they wouldn't let him do his job. I told him to let it go, but he never listened. I don't know what happened next. They transferred me shortly after. After half an hour of hanging out with the cops, reminiscing about Slater, you no longer have any doubts. The guy kept case files at his home. The pencil and notebook he was always writing in were mentioned several times. But do you want to disturb Slater's widow? So, as a further lead, we can visit Christine Slater. It's not even at this point a matter of if he's involved or not. It's a matter of this case, this homicide is pivotal to how this watch ended up here. And if he kept some notes and you know, had some more thoughts and notices that are not in the bare records that we have, it's the best thing we got. Yeah, time is tight. We're definitely going to be going in overtime again, but that's fine. Let's do it. Let's visit his widow on the day of her husband's funeral. That's how we do it, because we're cops. We're cops, goddammit! Alright, 104. 3 hours, plus the one for the travel time. So 4 hours for this process. 1, 2, 3... It's 5 p.m. The entire city is congested. The light drizzle finally turned into a downpour, and all the streets came to a halt. You wasted an additional half hour in traffic, but you finally arrive. You wait in the car for a few minutes while watching the house, wondering if you really want to go in there and bother Mrs. Slater. You muster up the courage. You run to the house, jumping over puddles, and knock on the door. A young blonde woman with a nice smile opens the door. Yes, what can I help you with? Good morning. Can I talk to Mrs. Christine Slater? I'm acting under the authority of the FBI, you say, showing your ID card. This is not the best time. I'm sorry, I realize that. Whom do I have the pleasure of speaking with? Linda Evans. Aunt Christine is my grandmother's sister. I live here because I study history at the university. Please come in. Aunt Christine is upstairs. She's lying down because the doctor recommended rest. Please wait a moment. I'll go get her. You stay in the room. Mrs. Slater has just buried her husband, and now you're standing in her living room ready to further spoil her day with questions about the former affairs of her husband. Oh god, I have to take a stress token just for doing this. Oh man. Okay, we're adding another plot card to the second case, which I hate. So that means it's not helping us. Okay. And we get to read Questioning 104. It took about half an hour for the old lady to come downstairs. Her niece led her gently. She was walking slowly, with a small wooden cane in her hand. She sat heavily in the armchair. Her eyes were red, swollen, and she was breathing heavily. How may I help you? My husband's friend have been keeping me informed. But the FBI... I'm listening, she said in a quiet, tart voice. Mrs. Slater, please accept our condolences. We're here because a while ago your husband was investigating a case that overlaps our own. Do you perhaps know if Mr. Slater had any notes from the old days? It was really long ago. Christine Slater nodded her head. Of course. It piled up through the years. My husband always liked to keep things organized. He kept his documents neat. He usually wrote down just single words, head words. He had a great memory and used to say this was only to jog it. A bit funny, I know, but that's the way Michael was. He kept the notes in the storage room under the stairs. She got up and opened a small door to the cabinet under the stairs. There, on the shelf, were boxes containing chronologically arranged notes. That's it. They're really well organized. On one of the boxes there was a small gray file with 67 Dawson written across it. It appears to have been consulted and never returned to its box. Inside there are papers and photographs. You start checking them out to see if it has anything connected to the case. Thank you, ma'am. Again, please accept our condolences. I think this is everything we need. Alright, so we get multiple cards. We can also spend a token to question Linda Evans. That does not seem like a good use of a token, because I highly doubt that her grand niece studying history at the university knows much about the case from 67. Considering we've already consulted about Kurt Blutholes and stuff with, like, an expert. So, I don't know. This cat. Sorry. Let's pass on that and just pop open the rest of these files. 132, 130, and 127. Okay. 127 is from May 4th, 1978. That's odd. Richard Briggs, 12:30 p.m. Young, probably military, caring for vets. 7th Army in Europe. Brenner, Coxon, Brown, their boss. Nick Torn, didn't return. Buddies? That's what it says, right? Yeah. No, we had focus for a second. Every time I try to do this on camera shit. It says Nick Torn as like one word. Yeah, there's not really any mistaking it. On the back, Dr. Oh, this is on the back is from 1989. Doctor Who He Was asked about Dawson, Buchmann, and Brown. Buchmann was the name Blutholz used when he fled to Austria. Brown. Do I know a Brown? Samuel Brown. Yeah, Samuel Brown. Brown, their boss. Brenner, Coxon, Nick Torn. Richard Briggs. So there was the whole crew. Nick Torn didn't return. Asked about Dawson, Buchmann, and Brown. Okay. This one from 67. Anna picture. Marcus plus Day, okay. He came in the back, went out front. Where are Dawson's diaries? Marcus, no. Doesn't make sense, exclamation point, exclamation point. New data. Giles is dead. Marcus caught. The top ordered to close the case. Okay, so the woman in the picture was named Anna. And apparently Giles came in through the back door but went out the front door. And Dawson's diaries are missing. Okay. This from 67, day before. Chevrolet, okay. Mustang, question mark. Cigarette butts, exclamation point, exclamation point. No diaries, exclamation point. Giles, why didn't he have a weapon? Motive, question mark. Robbery. Front door. Jack says Lily Garrett is lying. And on the back, we have the same photograph from World War II that was on his desk. But this is labeled with Dawson on the right, Coxon, Nick Torn, and then question mark, question mark, question mark for the guy on the left. Okay. Whew. Let's ponder all this, shall we? So from the note, the name Nick is likely Nick Torn. Is this a name? Is this a name that anybody was ever Nick Torn? Oh, I guess it could be like a last name. Well, I guess yeah, must be a last name. Because they're all using last names. Yeah, okay. John Nick Torn. So something killed. Blah blah blah. Nick Torn. Blah 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 blah. Handed. Blah blah blah. Accomplices. I still don't think we're any closer to solving this, to be honest. There is suspicious stuff, though. Giles' fingerprints were found on the scene, right? Do we know that for a fact? Yeah. His fingerprints were found on the scene. So we know that Giles was involved. Came in the back, went out the front, didn't come with a weapon even. Didn't come with a weapon, but the final report alleges that he held him at gunpoint. with the gun being found on the suspect the next day. So when they found Giles the following day and he resisted arrest and died, they found 2 guns in his car. But what's odd... Chevrolet OK Mustang. The car that they arrested him in, or tried to arrest him in, was a green Chevrolet sedan. What's curious about it is that in the car, they found the day's sales from a flower shop. And they found an old .08 Parabellum pistol. Now, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to look this up, but I'm going to anyway. A Luger. Oh! A Pistol .08 Parabellum from 1908. This is a German pistol. That's very curious. That would be a very odd thing to just have in your car in the 60s. Okay. Did Giles know Dawson before that day? Were they acquainted with it? Was this not just a robbery? What do we know about Giles? He was born in 1937. So he certainly wasn't in the war. Damn, it's really... We don't know enough about Giles, to be honest. Because now there's just sort of some oddities with this robbery. Was the Chevrolet his, or was it Dawson's? I'm shocked that this is not mentioned at all in the report. You'd think that the car was Giles. Because otherwise it would mention very specifically he stole the car. And here it says that he parked his car on Roseman Street before breaking into Dawson's home. So the car was his, but for some reason, not only did he have 2 guns in there, one of which was an old German Luger, he also had the day's sales from a flower shop. Again, it doesn't even specify that it's Dawson's flower shop, but I don't know why he would have any sort of... Now, Lily Garrett, Marcus Owen's ex-wife, confirmed Marcus's alibi for him not being involved in the robbery. But Jack, Michael Slater's partner at the time, was convinced that Lily was lying. Yeah, that's a noodler. We're in overtime right now. We're an hour in. I'm gonna take 1 stress right now. I can take 3 more on top of that. We're out in the field right now. I could go ahead and go out to Dawson's grave. I don't know what this would prove, but since we're out in the field, this would be the most convenient time to do it. I don't think it'll take us more than 3 hours to look at his grave. So let's do it. 1:31. 2 hours. Okay. The military portion of the cemetery is clearly well cared for. The grass is being regularly trimmed, and in the central point of the corridor stands a tall white flagpole with a billowing American flag. On the freshly cut grass, you can clearly see wheel tracks, like those of a garden cart or a wheelchair. Dawson's grave is decorated with a wreath that is slightly wilted, certainly from the anniversary of his death. A candle is burning next to it. On the gravestone, in addition to the usual dates, there is a strange inscription. This is my last distinction. Then we will be together. In the cemetery office, you learn that Dawson's grave is anonymously paid for once a year via bank transfer. You can try to track it back, but it will take some time. Again, we're missing the token that would allow us to check the surveillance footage. But we can track the source of payment for the grave by spending 2 authority tokens, and we can add a plot card to case number 4. You know what? Sure, I'll do it. But by the time I ever get to case 4, whenever that is, I'm sure I'll have completely forgotten about this. But I have more authority tokens than I know what to do with, so... Okay. So that was a big waste of time. The day is over. It is now day 4, the final day, 8 a.m. We're at the headquarters. What the hell do we do? In hindsight, I should have picked a different character. I should have picked, yeah, should have picked this one. Spend 1 authority token to change 1 skill token of any type into a wild token. That I would have been using every single day. The one where you spend the token to just go back to one, it turns out, generally I'm pretty certain, at least during case 1. Yeah. Because there doesn't seem to be any other way to get more tokens, so it's tricky. But alright, I needed to take 3 more stress as well. So we're at one more stress and we're done. But since it's the 4th day, doesn't it... Can't we just take unlimited stress? Can't we just work till like 7 a.m.? Oh, you could. But you lose 1 point for every stress token you've collected. Damn. That is rough. Okay. So we still want to be conscious of what we're doing here. Okay. We only have 3 further leads. 2 of them are at the courthouse, 1's at the lab. I guess we're going to the courthouse then. We're going to talk to the court pathologist to analyze autopsy report. Number 111. So that's 1 hour to get to the courthouse. And then 3 hours for this process. Jesus. It's already noon. Dr. Pine's office is located in the basement of the building. A winding stone staircase leads into the darkness of the magazines, a labyrinth of archive rooms, a dozen cubicles of unknown purpose, and finally, the doctor's kingdom. Separated from the world of the living with iron bars made during the war, which split the underground corridor in 2, Pine occupies a complex of several rooms. The office, lit by fluorescent lights, is ascetic. The only decoration is the picture on the wall depicting something that looks vaguely like guts. Pine greets you casually, takes the file, and points you towards the waiting room. In the white-tiled room that resembles a slaughterhouse, more than a historic courthouse, there is a... No, resembles a slaughterhouse more than a historic courthouse. There's a metal table, 2 chairs, and a coffee machine. No Wi-Fi in range, just peachy. Eventually, the door opens. Pine gives you a printout of the report with conclusions. No traces were taken from the victim's body. The neck injuries, especially the lateral ones, do not look like the result of a fall. A conscious, even semi-conscious man would instinctively protect his head. This blow, he says, showing you a photo, occurred at an internal angle. The bruise on the calf came beforehand. Somebody kicked him. Then Dawson hit a protruding object, maybe a desk. I would recommend an exhumation and re-examination. You wonder whether you should try to use this new evidence to follow the trail and attempt to convince Delaware to agree to an exhumation. Cost 3 authority tokens to do so. This is the time for authority tokens to shine. We've been collecting them the whole time. Alright, let's do it. Exhume that bitch. Obtaining permission for an exhumation is just short of a miracle, even in Antares. You press on the door handle of Delaware's office and go inside. You give him your opinion on the ambiguities about Dawson's murder. You show him Pine's report. You show all the inaccuracies in the autopsy and the conclusions of the investigators. Your experience in investigative work allows you to show step by step all the problems you see in the final report prepared by Slater. Delaware listens attentively, asking questions from time to time. He makes careful notes in his green notebook. You start thinking there's a chance, a hope, that you will leave this office with permission for the exhumation. And then reality hits. Great job. Congratulations on your inquisitiveness. Unfortunately, at the moment, I do not see any connection with the current matter. Please continue the investigation as you would normally. We will deal with the autopsy issues on another occasion. Add plot card 125 to case 2. God damn it. Okay. A lot of plot cards for case 2. Alright, well, while we're here, we're going to consult the forensic psychologist. 110. Another 3 hours. Jesus, this is like the end. It's 3 p.m. Malcolm Petrie's office resembled a 19th century library. Sophisticated furniture, large decorated desk with a stack of books climbing up to the ceiling. Next to the walls there were glass showcases containing items that seemed to be taken right out of the history books. Old pens and inkwells, bullets, bayonets, photos, maps, and even an antique stethoscope. By the window, in the corner, they managed to cram a small tea table. Petrie smiles enigmatically when he sees you and gets up from behind a pile of paperwork. He gestures you over to the window table. An assistant brings a kettle with tea and a plate of cookies and pours you both a cup. I got your message. Is it urgent? He asks with a smile, and seeing your face, immediately adds, Okay, I see it's urgent. I'm just teasing. Please don't be cross. Body language is a nasty traitor, right? Okay, what do we have here? He asks, reaching out for the briefcase that you hold in your hand. He opens it, puts on his reading glasses, and for a dozen or so minutes delves into reading. I do not think a perpetrator as aggressive as Giles would knock Dawson off the stairs. He would have beaten him, taken out his frustration, his aggression, kicked him when he was down, not throw him down the stairs. Giles was not organized. He searched the house chaotically, as if he did not know what to look for. He stole the gun. He knew how much that was worth, but he omitted other valuable items. He did not wear gloves. He might have tried to cover his tracks, but he certainly did it without a plan of action. Okay. Last of these tokens to ask him about Dawson and Owens. Dawson was a tough cookie. You can tell that just by skimming his file. He was a soldier who even fought another officer once. I doubt that Giles or Owens would be able to intimidate him. Obviously, if he was threatened at gunpoint, they could pressure him, but I doubt that a vet like him would be scared. Years in the military must have put him through much more difficult situations than a drunk from a pawn shop trying to intimidate him. Giles or Owens would probably piss their pants if they met Dawson on his own terms. Also, Dawson was 42 years old at the time of the murder. He was in his prime, and in a fight he would have a distinct advantage over Giles, especially considering his experience. Marcus Owens appears as someone who submits to a stronger personality, which frustrates him, leading to him taking it out on people weaker than himself, like his wife or son. I think he was also a pathological liar. I find it particularly peculiar that the struggle occurred in the office upstairs, while the perpetrator seemingly accessed the house through the back door, possibly making some noise. You ponder the consultant's words. There is something shady about this case, but it does not seem to be connected with the golden watch at first glance. You should probably ask Delaware if he'll let you dig deeper into this. And that's it. Yeah. We have one final lead. Yeah, I mean, I'll lose points for going that far into overtime, I think, but at this point, since it's our last lead, I might as well. 114 at the lab. This is the last thing we're doing. 2 hours. Okay, so I'm only taking one. I'm going to have a total of 8 stress then. Another visit to the laboratory building. A scanner reads your badge and you hear an automated welcome back. Going up to the 8th floor, you wonder if the person who programmed this system wanted to be really nice or really sarcastic. You pass through the glass door and delve into the world of the lab's silence. You log into the system, enter the evidence signature of the invoice, select a piece of paper in the options, select a photo of fingerprints, and select the high priority procedure. You wonder if there are any investigators who did not check this option. The lab assistant picks up the bill and secures it in a string bag. He scans the number and the screen with your application immediately writes up in red. You approach the screen. High priority procedures unavailable. Contact 804-555-6687 for more info. Damn. 2 authority tokens to finish the procedure. Do it! You receive a notification about the completion of the analysis. You log into the laboratory system and choose the option to send the report via an encrypted path directly to the Antares database. You provide the case number and verification code. Okay, we have the fingerprints from the pawn shop bill. One of them is Horatio Dawson's. Confirm. The other, though, let me punch this in. The other is a match for Marcus Owens. Okay. Huh. So, yeah, it was completely legitimate. Nothing faked about that bill. That was a big red herring. As for the partial fingerprints, the one on the ashtray matches Dawson's. We can see that. The other set on the ashtray, though, does not seem to match anything. Although it's close to the one on the shreds from the typewriter. It's just not exact. Either way, that's it. It's time to do the final report. That's the end of the case. So I'm taking 2 more stress, and we're gonna go to final report. Yes. During the investigation, our team has determined that Rupert Owens found the watch beneath the floorboards of the porch of his family home, got the watch from his mother, bought the watch in a pawn shop. We don't know where he got the watch. Okay, now, wrong answers are minus 2 points, if I remember correctly. Whereas an I don't know is minus 1 point. No. Close. I don't know is worth 0. Wrong is minus 1. So you're not really penalized for saying I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if he got it from his mother, though. Let's go with that. We've also concluded that Marcus Owens, the father of Rupert Owens, was the previous owner of the watch, which he bought from Horatio Dawson, stole from Dawson's house, got from Henry Giles in exchange for silence. We don't know how he got it. I mean, everything that I have looked into in this fucking bill of receipt or whatever tells me that it's real and that he bought it legitimately. So I have to go with it. At some point, the watch was in the possession of Horatio Dawson, and we believe that he brought it back as a memento of the campaign in Europe, received it as a bribe while stationed at Brenner Pass, received it as a thank you for saving a life during a shooting in Sicily. We don't know how he got it. I'm liking the bribe. Brenner. Brenner was mentioned. Yeah. On this note from Slater that he wrote. 7th Army in Europe. Brenner, Coxon, Brown, their boss. Nick Torn didn't return. Let's go with it perceived as a bribe. As for where Kurt Blutholz got the watch, our team was able to deduce that he stole it from one of his patients, stole it from the museum in Posen, received it as payment for sparing the life of a rich Jewish prisoner. Huh. We know that he stole... I mean, that makes sense a lot, that he stole jewelry from patients that he was experimenting on, because he had the baptism memorial pendant, and Polish people, Jewish people that were in there were shipped off to all sorts of camps, including Auschwitz. That makes sense for the pendant. The watch, however, is a little trickier. Even according to the Polish government, it was looted by the Germans from the museum, and they said it was stolen by Kurt Blutholz. So it was looted by the Germans. So he stole it from the museum. I'm just going with it. Those findings conclude our investigation in the matter of the Golden Watch. Delaware sends you an email with some additional questions. First of all, were you able to determine who might have killed Horatio Dawson? It's true. That last segment sort of introduced some reasonable doubt. The part with the pathologist or whatever. Dawson was a tough cookie. Doubt a vet like him would be scared. Dawson was 42 years old at the time. He was in his prime. Fight would have been a distinct advantage over Giles, especially considering his experience. Do we think none of the above? Do I think there was a third party there that was far more sneaky than Giles? Do I go with none of the above? I mean, I haven't answered we don't know for any of these, even though for really almost all of them I don't know for sure. I'll go with we don't know. From what I can see in Mr. Dawson's file, he was a soldier in the 7th Army. Do you know about any officer that might have been involved with Dawson? Colonel Samuel Brown. How many stress tokens did I use? 8. Final score. 9 out of 24. I didn't do that bad, actually. The stress hurts. You finished your job for the time being. Before heading to the nearest pub for dinner, the whole team meets with Delaware in his office. Thank you very much for completing your investigation, and make no mistake, this was an important case. He smiles briefly and points to the screen. I have read your report. I've also done a little bit of my own research. Let me point out some things I find particularly interesting. First of all, Mr. Owens Jr. I do not believe he got the watch from his mother. She died many years ago. Why sell the watch now if he had financial trouble for all these years? I would suspect that he found it hidden somewhere in his old family home. See, that's shit that differs from so many other, like, detective games, where that answer is never going to be spelled out for you on any card or in any file. You need to fucking deduce that shit. You need to apply logic to the situation, and I didn't. So, fair is fair. Yeah, I did not note or remember that she died many years ago. And it's true. He would have sold it as soon as he had gotten it. Because he's been in trouble. Rupert Owens is just a small fish, a local swindler who needed money, so he sold the watch to the auction house. Your investigation has determined that the previous owner of the watch was Rupert Owens' father, Marcus Owens. You believe that he bought it from Horatio Dawson. I tend to agree with that assessment. Yes. All that work to prove that fucking receipt. I believe Horatio Dawson was in dire need of money and he tried to sell his valuables to Marcus Owens, including the watch. That tipped Henry Giles to rob his house. Now, Mr. Dawson makes this case really interesting. He seems like an important piece of the puzzle. You think he received the watch as a bribe while stationed at Brenner Pass. I agree with that. Yes. Die Spinner. While he was probably an honest guy and a good soldier, Horatio Dawson was most likely pressured by his fellow soldiers to take the bribe from a rich German who wanted a safe passage to the checkpoint at Brenner Pass. That rich German had to be Kurt Blutholz himself, escaping Europe under a fictional name. So that brings us to the last piece of the puzzle. How did Kurt Blutholz get the watch? You believe he stole it from the museum in Posen. I agree with that. That's an interesting one because really, that's what they basically tell you during the opening of the case. I specifically stated that the watch was robbed from the Museum of the Land in Posen. It must have been Blutholz. During his escape, he used it exactly as he intended to secure himself a safe passage through the Allied checkpoints. Well done, detectives. I believe your report is sufficient for our administration to explain it to the Polish government how the watch stolen from them during World War II ended up in the U.S. You can be proud of yourselves. The very first Antares investigation is a success! Yeah! I'll take that, man. Because I got the part wrong about how Rupert got the watch, but that's really inconsequential. I thought there was going to be way more questions, but yes, it's a success. I won. That makes me feel good. I mean, yeah, I don't think actually these main ones were that much of guesses other than the first one. The second one, we bought it from Horatio Dawson. I definitely tracked that shit down. Received as a bribe while stationed. And that definitely was the most logical, likelihood. And stole it from a museum in Posen. I feel like they kind of just hand that one to you. 91% of people got the first one correct. Damn. But 49% of people got the fourth one correct? What the fuck? That's crazy. All right, then the additional questions. So, I put we don't know. And I don't get to know. They're not going to tell me. Shit. Yeah, okay. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm not a great note taker, I'll be honest. That's why I kind of want to play with some other people, just so other people will take notes. I've never really been into that too much. I prefer just thinking. I like the thinking part. But yeah, that was quite a bit of fun. I mean, it was fun for me. I don't know if it was fun to watch. I don't know how well you as a viewer could follow along with everything. I mean, most of its stuff is really just kind of like just the reading. It's just kind of like reading through cards and then just thinking about it. That's mostly what it is. There's not a lot of physicality, so it kind of works for a video format. Yeah. It definitely did not end up being as insane of like a web of I thought there would be like twice as many suspects and like way more events, but it was the first case. It was the first case, so I think they probably start you off fairly light. Once we get up to like case 4 or 5, probably pretty wild. But yeah, I like it a lot. I liked it a lot. I don't know what I'm going to do about the other cases. For now, I'm just going to sit on it, and I'll see who I rope into playing it. I think it's best if you do just sit down in one session, taking some breaks here and there, but just like spend a Saturday going through a case, you know. Because if you break it up and you try and go week to week, you're just going to forget way too much. It's just not going to be the same kind of experience. So it's got to be done in pretty much one go. I did this across like 2 days-ish. So, yeah. Really good stuff, though. Really good stuff. And they have expansions, I guess, or I don't know how much. Let me see. So they have a 6th case that you can buy on its own called Suburbia. They have some other standalone case. Oh, they have a standalone case called Natural Causes. Then they have a whole separate thing called LA Crimes, which is 3 cases that are all connected. And this is 1980s. So this is not modern day, I guess. This is a bit more thematic. 1980s Los Angeles. City swarming corruption, narcotics, and crime. So that would be pretty cool as well. And then there's another... Oh, there's another standalone case set in the 70s, written by Rob Daviau. That's kind of interesting. Oh, and then... Yeah, okay, and then a follow-up to that written by Mike Selinker and a couple others. So it's kind of interesting, though, that they... This one, I guess, just came out. That they're taking it and they're just bringing in all sorts of other game designers, and they're letting them do it in any time period they want, sort of, and just have at it. It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's not like some sort of groundbreaking system. The most unique part of it, as far as like why you would choose this to make a case for, is the database and how that all works, so that there's very little like on the table outside of like your notes that you want to take, or, you know, you put up pictures and you're connecting things and all that. The rest is all just kind of just the cards and then the database and stuff online. So the sort of the digital aspect of it is pretty interesting. Anyways, yeah, great stuff. Definitely looking forward to doing the other cases in the future, whenever that may be, whoever that may be with. Maybe by myself again, who knows? But I hope you enjoyed it, because I sure did. My name is Mangg. This has been Detective I'll see you fine folks around.